it.
So this net we have here on the floor is a typical a squid trawl for a boat with 450 horsepower. You can see there's not an awful lot of weight. I mean, this is the rubber here. It looks sort of bulky, but rubber in water only weighs about 15% of its dry weight, so it doesn't have a lot of hard bottom contact. You can see we don't want to be too hard on the bottom, especially with squid. We try to stay up above, just barely on the bottom, just enough to kick up that mud cloud, and allow the fish to be herded back into the net. And this is it's the back end of the net here. This is what I was referring to before. It's a Dyneema webbing.
Well, what's the advantage of Dyneema, John?
Okay, we can look at that. So this is that Dyneema webbing here. And you can just see the denier of it, which by that I mean the thickness of the webbing. Compared to a traditional plastic, it's much lighter, much thinner.
Each individual strand.
Each individual strand is much thinner, so it makes for much better towability. So not only can we make the net a little bigger, there's also just something about lighter twine catches fish better to boot.
And less water resistance.
Less water resistance.
Better fuel mileage.
Absolutely, yes, yeah, absolutely.
Now, why is this net in here, John?
It's a maintenance thing. These guys, the nets can last a long time, but they don't go long without being in the shop to have various repairs done to it. And this one we're going to be reattaching the sweep to the bottom of the net again because that piece of wire has gotten worn out. And so.
And do they get torn up?
They get torn up. This one here was a major repair. That was a last used herring fishing, as a matter of fact. And that one he got into something and took out the bottom of the net from there all the way back to the cod end. So, and that's,
So he hit something on the bottom?
Right, exactly. And times change, especially when fishing's good, or like guys will push edges and so forth. So they pushing is where they go,
So they go back to the same general 7 or 8 mile long strip of called a tow each year and fish the same basic areas, and sometimes the bottom is dynamic and sometimes.
Oh yeah, like offshore that's certainly the case too, but like the like Nantucket Sound, which is kicking off right now. The guys are going up there now to go squid and fish. It just opened up last week, I think. But there's a classic example of the currents that run through there, and you'll go tow one year, you'll tow and you'll get clear, and then the next year you'll go to that same spot and you won't get away with it. So it's
what happens?
I don't know whether the tide or the things have just shifted and uncovered rocks or uncovered wrecks, but things happen.
So it tears up this fragile.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. And and then last summer was last summer there was interesting on the south side of Martha's Vineyard. There's an area when you get to the west of it, they refer to it as worm mud, the west end of the tow, and we're not really sure what it is, but some people speculate that the worms, when the water hits a certain temperature, they come up. So you've made that tow one day, and then 2 days later you go back to that same thing, and it's become so soft because it's been aerated by these worms hatching that all of a sudden you can't get through. And we had a spat last August. We had, I don't know, eight nets here in a row that it's like, guys, it's like, I made that tow yesterday, you know what I mean? And they had blown their net up.
So the bottom is dynamic, and it's constantly changing, and gets moved around by storms, and wrecks come and go.
Tide and wrecks, and like I say, worms, and then like crabs move in and out of areas and stuff like that. So it's a very dynamic situation.